And you can just see the vast emptiness of this area is just breathtaking. There isn't even a huge amount of wildlife in this area. There is wildlife, like you've got the ostrich there, you'll see springbok. In certain parts near the rivers, you'll see the desert elephant, desert giraffe, desert lion, and desert rhino. And on the north, you've got the Kunene River, which then filters down underneath. This is generally giving a view of life in this area. This is the Himba people. That is how they dress normally. This is not for show. They don't get a lot of tourists in the area. To give you an idea, and that's them building their huts, using cow dung and mud to hold them together. This is how you get water in this area. So this is the guide basically filling the water for his guests. So there's few water points, and because of the traditions of the area, you don't just go and help yourself to water at these fountains. You go and find the elder of the village, ask if it's okay, then you fill with water, and then you put it on. This is a very traditional area. And these are just all the kids. You can see how they do their hair from a young age. And they're absolutely fascinated with tourists. To give you some idea, this route that we're taking today, probably less than 100 people do every year. So we're not looking like anything like large numbers of tourism, which is why you have to be so self-sufficient as you go through. Another good reason, everybody will take 2 spare tyres in Namibia as general. Some people will take 2 spare tyres and a full repair kit for tyres in this area. If you go in the lower season, you might wait 3 months before another vehicle is going to come past. And you're in still its desert area, even though there is some water sources available, and there's no traffic going through these areas. There's not like supply trucks going anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere apart from Angola and Skeleton Coast, so there's nothing coming through. The people are incredibly friendly, and they're sort of getting used to tourists, but this is them just in general life. This is not dressed up, this is them living. Most of them are cattle herders, goats and cows. And again, this is the second water point, which you see you share with all the local life. And goat skins are quite a valuable commodity because they wear and trade in goat skins. Thankfully for them, not donkey skins.
So they share the water points with the
Yeah. And it literally, and saying wildlife and animals is actually quite crucial, because those water points, elephants will come in to drink at them. The ostrich will come in to drink at them. The goats will come into them. The cows will come into them. The people will come into them. So it really is. Everything will come in, and everyone sort of just respects everyone's space. So it's.
Where do they get the water?
The water is pumped down from underneath, because the whole area, this area here. You'll see you'll see already from the pictures, it looks incredibly dry, because this is a problem a lot of Namibia has, because it's not quite a desert, because it gets just enough rainfall for 2 months of the year, but the rest of the year there's no rain at all, so everything dries out really quickly. So on the surface it looks very desert-like, and it might as well be a desert for all intents and purposes, but like a lot of Namibia, there's a huge amount of water underneath there. So if you drill down, but you're drilling down like 30 to 50 to 100 meters before you find water. So beforehand, they used to dig wells by hand. And that's what they used children for. So I actually, because I worked up in this area with aid organizations for a while, because the way they used to dig water wells was they would get the smallest child that was strong enough, they would put a bucket on a rope around the kid's neck, and the bucket would hang in front of them. Then they'd tie a rope around the kid's feet. This is after they'd dug down about 20 meters and the adults couldn't get down. Then they would lower the child head first with their feet tied to a rope down in there with a bucket, and they would then dig the soil and put it in the bucket. Wiggle when they're ready, they'd pull it up until they hit water. Then they had to pull them up really quick, because then once they hit water, the water would start filling. And a lot of children got drowned because the water would go up faster than they knew at the top if they weren't paying attention, and once it got deep, to pull the kids up. But that's how they dug water wells. It's absolutely, tragic and amazing, but that was just life there. The other thing is, 1 in 10 water holes produces drinking water. So for every 10 they drink, and sometimes they dig, sometimes they'll be digging for 2 or 3 months to dig a water well, then they'll hit water and it's undrinkable, because it's contaminated from the seaside, especially when you get onto the western side, which is the Skeleton Coast, because Skeleton Coast is because basically this is still skeleton coast, this entire area, and this is a ridge of mountains that runs along the Kaokoland or the Kunene region. And this actually is the highest geographical part of the country, which is really weird. This part of the country is actually higher than Bramberg Mountain, the top of Bramberg Mountain, because it's on a stepped plateau. So you're standing at thing, but you actually, the top of Kaokoland, where you actually drive, Anzar's Pass, is higher than the top of Bramberg, which is Namibia's highest mountain. Bit of a conundrum, isn't it? But it's just the land from Bramberg grows up. Well, he waters it, so it grows up. No, it is built up on a plateau. Underneath it is the sand and limestone, though, which is why the water floods underneath it. But there's a granite plateau that the whole of the Kaokoland is on top. So which gives it that weird, there is a lot of water, but it's very difficult access. The other problem with being on a granite plateau is because they go nearer the coast, they can dig deeper because it's sand, but then the water's contaminated. They come inland, they dig down, they hit this granite plateau. And of course, by hand, or even with some tools, you can't dig through a granite plateau.